Despite making up a significant proportion of gamers, women are still very underrepresented in both the games industry and in games themselves. According to a 2018 survey, 50% of gamers in Canada are women, but the games they play often don't provide authentic representations of themselves. Today, though, I'm going to talk about a few games that are exceptions to this rule. Life is Strange Before the Storm, and Night in the Woods, and the ways in which players can identify with the player characters, Max Caulfield, Chloe Price, and Mae Borowski. 2015's Life is Strange tells the story of Max Caulfield, an 18-year-old hipster photographer who moves back to her hometown of Arcadia Bay to attend the prestigious Blackwell Academy. Soon after arriving, Max discovers she has the powers to rewind time.
You don't know who the fuck I am or who you're messing around with.
Where'd you get that? What are you doing? Come on, put that thing down!
Don't ever tell me what to do. I'm so sick of people trying to control me!
You are going to get in hella more trouble for this than drugs.
Nobody would ever even miss your punk ass, would they?
Get that gun away from me, psycho! No! Whoa.
With the help of her new powers, Max reconnects with her childhood best friend, Chloe Price, and together they try to solve the mystery of Rachel Amber's disappearance and stop the town from being wiped out by a giant tornado.
This is my storm! I caused this! I caused all of this! I changed fate and destiny so much that I actually did alter the course of everything! And all I really created was just death and destruction!
However, saving the town comes at a great personal loss. Before the Storm, released in 2017, is the prequel to Life is Strange, which is told from the perspective of 16-year-old Chloe Price, who is still not fully recovered from the death of her father 2 years prior. Meanwhile, she tries to cope with her mom's boyfriend moving in and being kicked out of school, all while she develops an intense new relationship with the most popular girl in school.
Chloe Price.
Rachel Amber.
Last night was amazing. To tell the truth, I went to bed last night wishing it never had to end. But then I thought, why? Why does it have to end?
Finally, Night in the Woods, also released in 2017, tells the story of Mae Borowski, a 20-year-old college dropout who returns home to Possum Springs and tries to reconnect with her family and old friends. Most days she drifts aimlessly, visiting friends at work, playing bass, and watching TV with her dad. But after witnessing someone get kidnapped at Harfest, Mae discovers a sinister cult in the woods outside of town who are trying, in vain, to return the town to its former glory. Importantly though, all three games are ultimately about the everyday lives and struggles of their young women protagonist, and the relationship she has with her friends.
feels like a different world from yesterday.
We left a skid mark on Blackwell last night.
All three of these games provide coming-of-age stories for their playable protagonists. In Night in the Woods, May drops out of school and returns to her hometown, and slowly learns to accept where she's at, both in her relationships with her friends and in coping with her mental illness, which May explains to Bea by saying, "Something broke, went outside in the tree out front. I looked at it every day, it was like a friend outside the window. Now it was just a thing that was there. Growing and eating and just being there. Like all the stuff I felt about the tree was just in my head. And there was some guy walking by, and he was just shapes. Just like this moving bulk of stuff. And the next day was that softball game, and Andy was the pitcher when I was up. And he was just shapes too. Just lines someone wrote. Like nothing in there. And I was so scared and angry, and I don't know. Before I knew it, I was on top of him, smashing his face in with the bat. Just shapes. Red shapes all over the grass. Something broke in my head, in my life. And before the storm, the changes in Chloe's life and her new relationship with Rachel allow her to become more comfortable with who she is and to be more authentically herself.
Sometimes, when you meet someone who's going to change your life, you just know it, I guess.
While in Life is Strange, Max learns to break out of her shell and become more confident in herself, and gradually she becomes the everyday hero she wants to be.
Your power is changing everything, Max. Especially you. I can already tell. You're not so chicken shit anymore.
Thanks, girlfriend.
You just don't have any confidence yet.
Unfortunately, that didn't come with my rewind power.
No worries. Once you get over yourself, you're gonna make the world bow.
The games feature a number of other similarities as well. Night in the Woods and Life is Strange both involve missing person cases, and all three feature villains who are white, male, figures of authority.
You are not welcome here or around my daughter any longer. I know exactly what kind of person you are from the moment I saw you, and I let my wife's compassion get the better of me.
Oh? What kind of person is that?
A delinquent. A broken girl from a broken home.
And Chloe and May especially share a number of similarities, as crime-loving punks who have left school but feel pressure to succeed from their parents, who feel haunted by the loss of a family member, and deal with their problems and rage by smashing things with a baseball bat.
I've never understood your hard-on for cameras, Max. You took 1,000,000 pictures of us, and not one of them showed that you were gonna leave when I needed you most. Fuck cameras.
The biggest similarity between the games, though, which influences how we as players identify with the characters, is the setting. The settings of Arcadia Bay and Possum Springs, soaked in their sunset-colored nostalgia, play a big role in bringing the player into the story. They're simple, everyday, small towns where the jobs are disappearing, and the young people are desperate to get away. The economic crises faced by these towns is emphasized by Selmer's poem. No reception here. I wave my black phone in the air like a flare, like a prayer, but no reception. I read on the internet baby-faced boy billionaire phone app sold made more money in one day than my family in 100 generations, more than my whole world ever has. World where house-buying jobs become rent-paying jobs, become living with family jobs, boy billionaires. Money is access to politicians waiting for us to die, lead in our water, alcohol and painkillers. Replace my job with an app, replace my dreams with a house and a yard, with a couch in the basement. The future is yours, forced 24/7 entrepreneurs. I just want a paycheck and my own life. I'm on the couch in the basement, they're in the house, in the yard. Some night I will catch a bus out to the West Coast and burn their Silicon City to the ground. Arcadia Bay and Possum Springs are, for the most part, normal. Aside from Max's time rewinding, May's giant cosmic animals, and, depending on what side of the debate you're on, Rachel's possible supernatural abilities. but the economic struggles the towns are facing are recognizable and relatable, which bring us to the idea of kinesthetic empathy and mirror neurons. Kinesthetic empathy is basically an embodied interpretive response to observed movement with relation to the observing body's own imaginative and performative experience and social understanding of that movement. In other words, this is what allows us as players to feel emotionally connected to the characters we are playing as through mirror neurons, which are an element of the primate nervous system, which have a response identical to both performing an action and observing that same action. Because of these mirror neurons, the kinesthetic response of the player is also stronger if they feel personally responsible for the actions of the avatar, which is exactly what happens when we move the character, hit a prompt button, or choose a dialogue option.
Kate, this is our chance to beat the bullies. That's the only way we can win against them.
This is also where the realistic settings of Arcadia Bay and Possum Springs come into play, because the mirror response is also stronger when the observer is more familiar with the performer's actions. For example, a retired dancer watching ballet will feel a stronger connection to the actions on stage than the average observer. So the realistic settings of these games, from the high school classrooms to the teen bedrooms to texting and online messaging, all contribute to the immediately recognizable and familiar sentiment of the games, which make the player's mirror response stronger. It makes the stories and characters more believable and relatable.
Please don't want to talk. Please don't want to talk.
I
Please.
want to talk to you about something.
Fuck.
Even with the connection between the player and the character established, kinesthetic empathy and mirror neurons are not the only contributing factor in how the player might experience an emotional connection with the player character. By playing the game, the player simultaneously takes on both the role of the character and of themselves, and through the character they are then able to explore their ideal self versus their actual self. How we see ourselves as players obviously has an impact on how we identify with characters, and in turn, the characters we play as are able to show us different sides of ourselves.
Max, you don't have a style yet. At least give it a try.
But it would be cool to try on Rachel's clothes just to see if they fit.
Stop second-guessing yourself, Max. Put this on and let your inner punk rock girl come out. You can afford to take chances.
Through video games, players can explore different aspects of themselves and try on ideal characteristics, and it is the ideal self that games explore most often. In fact, a study in 2011 showed that players were generally more motivated by games which allowed them to explore their ideal selves rather than their actual selves, which makes sense as these games provide a sense of fantasy and escapism. But games like Life is Strange and Night in the Woods provide the player with the chance to explore their actual selves and see qualities of themselves in the game.
I'm just not really into touchy-feely shit. But I feel like I can trust you.
Yeah?
I got on this train with you, didn't I?
Fair point.
Playing as Max reminds us of times when we were unsure of ourselves, times we didn't feel like we fit in or just felt awkward and shy.
I just wanted to settle in first and not be such a shy, cliche geek.
Playing as Chloe can remind us what it's like to experience the beginning of a new relationship, and all the excitement and vulnerability that can come with it.
Excitement ages quickly. And I fear if we set out in search of new, fun, you'll tire of me. And, then I'll be alone.
Spirit, take my hands. Most faithful friend, for but a little longer I beseech. Continue in thy service to my schemes, and when they are complete, I swear to thee, we shall fly beyond this isle. The corners of the world are mere prologue. I'll seek to make thy happiness so great that e'en the name of liberty's forgot. What sayest thou to my most hopeful wish?
And playing as May reminds us what it's like to make mistakes, to say the wrong things, and sometimes accidentally hurt the ones we love. While these aren't necessarily nice feelings, they are relatable and recognizable and allow us to connect with the characters on a deeper level. In Gaming at the Edge by Adrienne Shaw, she explores the ways in which gamers identify with the characters they play as, and she noted that identifiers like race, gender, and sexuality lead only to surface-level connections. Instead, players would find similarities in life experiences, personalities, senses of humor, actions, and choices. And identifying with a character was described as an emotional or intellectual connection, or both. As players, we are always looking for things we have in common with characters, since these are what allow us to make these connections, even if the character is portrayed as a cat. The problem that comes with all of this is that the connection and the sense of identification between the player and the character usually goes hand in hand with authentic representation. And, as I alluded to at the start of this video, there is, in general, a significant lack of authentic representation of women in video games.
Just relax. Stop torturing yourself. You have a gift. Fuck it.
Adrienne Shaw acknowledges in Gaming at the Edge that for some people representation is very important. As one interviewee put it, seeing people like me in media shows that I'm being heard and seen, I'm being acknowledged, and I'm here. However, this representation only really matters if it's authentic, or at least represents a recognizable experience for the player, rather than being included as a token character without any depth. Which is why games like Life is Strange and Night in the Woods are important, because they provide an authentic voice for young women in media.
If you were a man,
It's cool. If you were a man, I wouldn't go so easy on you either.
But the most important thing about the representation of young women in these games is that they are not all confined to stereotypes. They don't have to be typically feminine, and they are allowed to be more than one thing. By including such a variety of female characters, Life is Strange and Night in the Woods show young women that they are allowed to be authentically vulnerable or protective of their friends, to be creative or hardworking or weird, to be unsure of themselves or comfortable with who they are, or even to be bitches, to feel betrayal or jealousy and to be pensive and nerdy, to express love and desire, to show genuine anger or despair, to have complex emotions and relationships, and to not always say or do the right thing and make mistakes, and ultimately, they're allowed to be the everyday heroes they want to be.